Hi guys,
Guys.
Rachel and Jen here. So for our PD today, we are just doing a short video answering some of your guys' questions. And we've created a resource for you guys as well to kind of learn and view and take some time on your own. And then we are going to have office hours as well. That you can find in the PD schedule for any follow-up that's needed with teachers. So we'd like to go ahead and start with some of the questions we received. So we'll start with those, and then we're going to kind of go through our crosswalk with you.
Okay, so we're going to kind of do like a Q&A as well. We just went through the responses of the survey and took those questions as well. So hopefully we can answer them the best we can for you guys. All right, so the first one, we were talking about how to support students while maintaining academics.
So one of the things when we read this, we thought maybe the person asking the question was asking is like, what do we do if a student's escalated, and how do we maintain the rest of the classroom? Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to talk about de-escalation for a minute with that, and then just kind of talk about ways to support that student through any escalation and be able to still continue to maintain the academic side of your classroom. And one thing that Mrs. Horner and I have talked about several times is just when a student becomes escalated, it can disrupt the classroom. And so that preparedness plan is very similar to whenever we have academic pullouts or when we need to do small groups, we have a plan in place for what the rest of the class is going to be doing. And so I want to go through just first of all, just some simple de-escalation. So if you have a student that becomes escalated, one of the best things to do is kind of throw out the mindset of what they're doing is wrong and they need to stop right this second, because when we get in that hyper-focused mindset, we do want them to stop. It is disruptive, but sometimes when we have that mindset, it escalates a student even more. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I would like to tell you to just throw out right now is talking about any consequences with a student that's escalated in the moment. And I hate to say like threats, but like sometimes I'm guilty of even doing it with my own kids where, right, at home where they're throwing a fit about something, like, if you keep throwing a fit, you're not going to get it at all. And I know personally that even from the job I do every day, that escalates those emotions more. And so one of the best strategies you can do with a student that is escalated is change the topic completely. So if you have a student that's completely escalated about doing their math, they're kicking the chair now, they're starting to rip up the paper in front of you, find something totally unrelated, because our goal, again, is not to give consequence or punishment when we're trying to de-escalate. We're just trying to bring that emotional level down. So if you have a student out of 10, they're having some of those disruptive behaviors, our goal is to take a level 10 to an 8 and then redirect back to what we need them to do. And so what I mean by that, and you might have seen Mrs. Horner and I have done this before. Some of you might have done it and not even realized you were doing it. If we have a student that's escalated, I'm not focusing when I come in about what behavior they're doing. I am trying to take that level 10 down. And so I might notice they have a Super Mario Brothers shirt on. And so instead of addressing that they're kicking their chair and making really loud noises, I might hyper-focus in on something like the t-shirt they're wearing. Mm-hmm. I might say, oh, do you like Mario? Did you know when I was a kid, that was my favorite game, and I liked Luigi better than Mario? And I might try tactics like that to get them off of what they're upset about, just so I can de-escalate and refocus. And so, sometimes kids will be able to refocus that way. They'll look down at their shirt and all of a sudden you notice the kicking has stopped. And they're like, well, yeah, I like Super Mario Bros. Who doesn't? And then all of a sudden it turns to talking about a topic that is not related to what they're escalated about. And then once we're able to kind of calm them down a little bit, then we can address, okay, great. Yeah. I didn't know we had that in common. Did you see on question 6 here how we were just talking about number replacement? So I'm going to have you start doing that again and see if you can just refocus. The consequences, obviously, if a student's escalated, they need to have consequences. But in the moment when we're de-escalating, that's not the goal. And so when you're talking about classroom management strategies, if you have a student that's escalated, that plan B is just like you would do if you had academic pullouts or small groups in your class. You're going to have something prepared that the rest of the class is going to be focused on while you are working with that student to de-escalate. Obviously, there's going to be certain times when it's not safe to do that with your students in the room, and that would be the time when a student would need to be removed or the rest of the class would need to be removed. So if they're having unsafe behaviors like they're throwing things at other kids or they're hitting people or they're doing things that are dangerous and not safe, we're going to just have to switch straight into safety mode. But the reason we want to give you guys some of these strategies is because one of the huge factors of helping kids with social emotional learning is building relationships and repairing relationships. And you guys are with them much more than what we are, much more than what Mrs. Updike and Miss Bailey are with them. And so when we come in sometimes to de-escalate, the student doesn't know me, and they might respond to my de-escalation. I might be able to pull them out from the room. And even if we do need to do that, we want you guys to be able to rebuild that relationship with them because they're with you every day. And so if they don't feel that connection with you, you're going to have more escalation in your room and more often. And so if you guys are taking charge too of some of those de-escalation situations, with our support, we're always willing to come in and support. Right. And sometimes support might look like you have your plan B activity and myself or Mrs. Horner or Mrs. Updike or Mrs. Bailey can come in and we can make plan B happen with your other kids while that student is getting calmed back down. So again, you're de-escalating just to enough to refocus. So always having that plan B ready of like, hey, I know I have little Tommy in my room and little Tommy gets upset. At least once a week where he's doing that, he's making loud noises, he's being disruptive, not in a dangerous way, but he's distracting others with his escalation. You guys being the ones to help de-escalate them helps to repair that relationship. Because a lot of times those students that we have that escalate, there's a lot of self-shame and guilt that comes after the escalation for them. Mm-hmm. And then the embarrassment sets in, and then they're refusing to want to be in class. They're escalating more to get out of class. And so that repairing of the relationship and the building of the relationship with you guys as their teacher is so important. So that's my best advice I can give you with de-escalation is don't focus on consequences in the moment. That has to come when they're calm or they're not going to accept it. We just need to focus enough on de-escalating a 10 to an 8 and redirecting back to what we need them to do. Is there anything you would add to that, Mrs. Horner?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think you explained it very well.
Yeah. So I hope that I answered that question that someone had about like how to continue maintaining academics. I hope that was on point with what you were asking if you were that person asking that. Okay, so our second one here, Mrs. Horner, is any ideas that we have to nurture a safe and positive learning environment with students?
Okay, so some of the things that I was thinking about is that you can definitely maybe do, we're trying to figure this out. Maybe you can do like a feelings check-in, like as soon as they walk in every day in the morning, just to kind of get, and they can even move a Post-it note. They can, maybe you can have a clip or, with their name on it or something like that, just so you can have an idea of the overall feelings of your class that day. Also, you might want to make like a safe corner or something like that in your room, that if someone is not, feeling the best that day or whatever, they can go to that and you can focus that like, oh, okay. And that's when you can call us in or, maybe during recess or during another quiet time, you can have that time to work with them. I know I also, I made like lap books for the classes last year. I gave it to the team leader. So we can, I mean, maybe I can work to make some more of those for each classroom that you can put in that safe corner. And it just has calm down strategies for that student. So if they're escalated or, just not really feeling it that day, they can use some of those strategies in that lap folder as well in their area. Another thing you can also do is just do some like relationship building activities. Those can be as simple as doing a board game, just to work together. There's also there's tons of resources out there for relationship
doing
building
things
stuff.
like even cahoots with your whole class.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of times when we talk about relationship building, it seems like we talk about that at the beginning of the year and then we're like, oh yeah, we're all good, we know them. But relationship building really never stops because relationships are fluid. And so sometimes they're really good and strong and sometimes they're not, whether that's our personal relationships or our relationships with our students. It is very fluid. And so we have to make sure that we're always nurturing those relationships and doing the relationship building activities regularly. So maybe it's a once a week thing and maybe it's a bi-weekly Friday thing where it's kind of a time for students to reconnect with you as their teacher and with their classmates, their peers, where it is things like, board game. I know Jen Martin she's talking about a meeting that we had, board game bonanza that she does with her class. And maybe you don't have that built into your schedule, but something like a Kahoot where students could do it at their desk would be an easy, and maybe it's fun. It doesn't always have to be completely academic focused whenever you're doing those relationship building activities. Just knowing that you building a relationship with kids is going to help their academics. And so being able to do, maybe it's pop culture Kahoot or something like that the kids really enjoy and they get to see a different side of you, and that just helps them to build connection again.
And I mean, even building the connection and the relationship with their other classmates as well. And I mean, if if we could get back to regular times and we can, go to other classrooms again. I mean, big shout out to, I know 2nd and 5th grade always did their
little buddies,
little and big buddies. They always did the buddies thing. And that's a great relationship building activity as well. So, other grades could almost, like 1st and 3rd. And, we could get those to where, and it's just these little activities for and it was like, I want to say it was like once a month. No, it was the early dismissals. They would go down there and they would do like 30 minutes at the end of the day. And stuff.
Maybe even in these COVID times, we could do things like we do virtual buddies, or pen pal buddies again. Right. So, there are some other ideas when we still have to socially distance to help kids make those connections. So getting creative, looking up some of those ideas. But yeah, something like a flip grid buddy or, something like that would be kind of cool to see too.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Our next question was, what are some other supports that I can use when a child is not feeling motivated to work with us in a whole group instruction? And also, how can I build their confidence?
So when we looked at this one, we really kind of took that mindset again of just like we would if a kid was struggling with, say, math or reading, we might need to pull them aside for that smaller group time. So, setting aside time, one-on-one instruction with them while the whole class is working on something else that you already had planned for individual work time. And just some confidence boosters are highlighting their positives and strengths for them. Sometimes when kids are feeling unmotivated, it's because they're not understanding things as well as they think they should, or they have anxiety that is getting in the way of that. And so some examples of some of those highlighting positive strengths would be sending positive dojo messages home for that student, really highlighting the things they did well, and making them aware of it too, that you sent it home. So sometimes we have families that are really great about sharing that positive feedback they receive from teachers. And then sometimes it kind of gets lost in translation. So maybe their parents don't check dojo very often, but you being able to bring to their attention, hey, I wanted to show you that I'm sending this message home because you did, it takes, a minute to tell a kid, you did so good today on your writing assignment. I'm so proud of you. Like, I just sent a message home to mom about how fantastic your writing is. Positive office referrals. So utilize those so kids can be highlighted in front of their peers. And then another example of highlighting them positively in front of their peers would be if they do well on an assignment, especially if it's a subject they've maybe been struggling in or unmotivated in, using their work as an example to show other students in the class what you expect from that assignment. So, being able to say, Johnny did so great on this, and what I really loved, and I want to show the rest of the class that he did, is he did X, Y, and Z, and that's just what I asked for in the assignment. So really helping to build their confidence in ways like that to help motivate them to see their own positives. All right, so our next one. What can we as classroom teachers do to support SEL in the classroom, and how often should we be doing SEL lessons?
Okay, so what you can do to support the SEL, we're going to get into that in more depth as we go through our choice board that we made. So that'll answer that question a little bit more in depth with that, and it'll be easier to see that as we explain it.
Yeah.
As much as to answer how often should we be doing these, we were talking, maybe you can pick one of the competencies, sorry. You can pick one of those and do it once a month.
So you focus on one of those for a month. And
right.
Every Friday you do an activity.
Exactly. So it's because there's, what are there? There's 4, 5?
There's 5 of them.
5.
Yep.
There's 5 of them all together. So you can take let's say you take November and you focus on the first one, the self-awareness. And so every Friday, maybe just do a 30-minute lesson on that. So it doesn't have to be every day.
No, it absolutely can be if you want to work that in. But if you're I just really want to make sure we're at least talking about it, we're hitting it, we're meeting it, setting aside time, once a week or a couple times a month, maybe it's bi-weekly, you do a Friday self-awareness for the month of November. And so you're going to pull some of the activities that we've created in kind of our crosswalk for you. That would be sufficient to meet this.
And I would say you guys are doing more in your classrooms than what you think you are to support these. So, there's a lot that you're already doing that you don't have to focus on a lesson because you do it every day with the students. So, and you'll see as we go through this, I don't, let's just finish the questions and then we'll go through it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The next one was, what are the specific teaching points that the counselors would like us to hit on with our students? Which we just kind of answered
and
that.
Again, we just want you to focus on those competency areas from ODE. There's 5 of them, and we're going to go through those. We've pulled it up for you on the screen. We'll tab over to it so you can kind of see more in depth what those are. All right, and then another one we got is about a specific curriculum. So if you have something that is a specific curriculum that you'd like to use, you can feel free to reach out to myself or Jen or Mrs. Updike or Mrs. Bailey to see if that would fit in with the curriculum that you're already doing.
Yes.
If you have a certain curriculum.
Okay, the next one we had was, what can we do in the Gen Ed classroom to work with social emotional learning techniques? We talked a lot about that, maybe using that intervention time. And of course, like we said, once on Fridays, instead of doing intervention, do an SEL lesson. That would be a great time to incorporate some of those.
Yep. Okay. And then our last one on here was just asking for some primary age resources. We do have that in our crosswalk. So why don't we just get to showing them some of that?
Let's do that.
All right. So we created this for you guys with just some different resources that we have found have been utilizing really and they do meet the standards. And so Ohio has 5 different competency areas. And the first one is self-awareness. And within each competency area, there are several different objectives that they want us to reach. If you look at this all together, it looks really overwhelming. And that's why we said, if you take a month and you just focus on one area, you don't have to hit every single point on here. A lot of them are just kind of a similar theme. So, the first objective is under self-awareness is demonstrating an awareness of personal emotions. So this is really where we want to focus on emotion identification. And being able for kids to be able to verbalize their emotions to others and recognize triggering events and emotions for them that might change their emotions and how they feel in certain situations. And so then the second objective is demonstrating awareness of personal interests and qualities, including their strengths and challenges. And so if we go back to our kind of crosswalk here, so we have given you guys in this crosswalk both the competency area from ODE and then some online resources and then just some best practices and easy ideas or activities that you can incorporate in your classroom. So 2 online resources that we really like are Nearpod and Overcoming Obstacles, and those are linked for you. These are free resources for us and for you guys as well. All you have to do is put in your school email to get access to these, and we've actually listed out specific lessons from both of these online resources that would meet this competency area for you. So, like for instance, if you look under competency A, self-awareness, if you sign up for Nearpod and you just type in the Nearpod library search engine, gratitude jar, it's going to come up with that lesson for you. A lot of these on Nearpod, you can either do, you can teach in front of the entire class just yourself. You can have your students log in as well, and they can participate on their own devices. So great if we go remote at all, that they could continue to do that. So you would just put these, like we've found them for you. We've listed them under each competency. And Nearpod lessons are super, super easy to follow. Very little prep time.
Very little. Yeah.
So, you're looking at, I would say maybe 10 to 20 minutes of prep time for each lesson. So not that much additional time on your end to prepare for those. The Overcoming Obstacles. So we actually started incorporating this curriculum into our SEL small groups that we have for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And so some of your kids are getting these lessons directly in small group, but they're fantastic for large group too. Yeah. Like we just did a responsibility one the other day in our small group, and I thought, man, this would be great for an entire class of 3rd graders to get. I think we were working with 3rd grade that day. 3rd grade. So those are both great free resources. All you have to do is sign up. If you look at our crosswalk here, we have found the lessons for you. And you'll find underneath almost every one of these competencies, we have listed the zones of regulation. That is not a free curriculum. However, it has been so helpful. I know for lots of our students we work with one-on-one. You probably at this point have lots of students in your classes that have been in small groups. And just because we use it for Unique Week and things like that, that just know the language. And it's such a great way for kids to be able to communicate their emotions to other people. So we always recommend the zones of regulation.
You can also check with some of your colleagues.
Yes.
Because there are quite a few colleagues that
know the curriculum. And
they know the curriculum. They have the curriculum. So you can check in with them as well.
Yeah. And then, so for competency A, some other things to consider and look at. I've linked here the classroom feelings check, and we already referenced that in answering one of our questions here. But it's just a great little article about how a teacher was doing just an easy check-in every day. This one right here, so circle check-ins after long weekends, holidays, when we come back. That's fantastic to do, and I always recommend those when you do those to really make it a focused time. And for some reason, circles make people talk. I don't know if there's like research about that or not, but I always recommend getting rid of the desks and actually having kids circle up together, either on the floor or in their chairs. And it just really removes any obstacles or distractions so that each kid really gets an opportunity, if they would like to share about their weekend. And I always like to do, when we do circle check-ins, just give me a high and give me a low. And, a kid might bring something up and you're like, holy cow, what do I do with that information they just gave me for their low? You stay calm, you nod your head, you give them reassurance, and then you circle back and check in with them, or shoot myself or Mrs. Horner a text or an email that, they brought this up during circle check-in time. Could you meet with them individually? I think there's more going on there. But you always just remain calm, nod your head, and then, just go on like business as usual. Everything's fine. Another one that we put on here for just relationship building that I've linked for you is the handshake check-in that a teacher had done. Some of you have probably seen that video. He had a secret handshake with each one of his students when they entered his classroom. It was just such a relationship builder. Social distancing now, obviously we don't want to be giving kids handshakes, but you could do your own dance, or, you each do a mirror dance or something like that as they walk in the room. Just, again, building that relationship, because when you build that, then students feel more comfortable sharing the more personal feelings that they're having, and they feel comfortable being able to identify to you that they're not always happy. And so that's definitely meeting that competency area of helping them to understand their emotions better. Do you want to go over competency B?
Okay, so this one is about self-management. And
click back here for you so you can see.
Yes. Okay, so like the first one is just to regulate your emotions and behaviors by using thinking strategies that are consistent with brain development. So identifying their own personal behaviors and, how they react to, certain situations or, whatever. So back in the
crosswalk here.
Yes, in the crosswalk. Again, we took the Nearpod lessons and just went through and found all the ones, just regulating our emotions and working on mindfulness, the consequences of your actions, like you're working on your emotions. Again, on there is the zones of regulation curriculum. It's nice because we're able to hit on that a lot of times with, like you said, with our unique week and during our small groups. So they can get some of that. Some of the other things I added in there on the other site is without the
so the activities and easy resources to
just like if you want to do this like on a daily prompt. I know a lot of us do like soft starts and stuff now. So, just like your daily writing prompts, you could, and I just kind of gave you some ideas of like Mighty Monday. So tell us about your strengths. Tone Up Tuesday. What's a skill you'd like to improve? And you could even add in there, how would you improve it? Then Wonder Wednesday. What's something that you really felt a true sense of wonder? Like what have you really thought about? What have you really wondered about? Thankful Thursday, things you're thankful for, and like Feelings Friday. Go through like a time that you felt happy, time that you felt sad, and so on and so on. You also could do a feeling scale. Those are something that are very easy to make. Like it's almost like a thermometer that you can, just if you see, that's one that you can say, okay, so I can't tell you how you're feeling right now. Can you show me on this? So they could do a feeling scale. And then, like I said, you guys, we're doing a lot of this stuff. So just following the B's right there. Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong one. I'm down to the next one.
Too, the self-management
it would. Too. Just to make sure that you are, doing what the school-wide rules are of being safe, be respectful, the following those B's.
Yeah. So for our area, our competency C here on ODE'S standards, we've got Social awareness. So that's recognizing, identifying, and empathizing with the feelings and perspectives of others, demonstrating consideration for and contribute to the well-being of the school community and the broader world and community, demonstrating awareness and respect for human dignity, including the similarities and differences of all people, groups, and cultures, read social cues and respond constructively. So if we go back to our crosswalk here, we've labeled out some of those Nearpod lessons. Again, this is such a great resource because it's so easy. It's user-friendly. It is easy to prepare for lessons. And so in this competency, you're really focusing on things like embracing diversity, following rules and why it's important that we follow rules. Social constructs, like you could even kind of take like a social studies lesson and turn it into an SEL lesson based on, social constructs and laws and rules. Why do we have them? And you're meeting some of that competency for SEL of social awareness. Again, following the B's, that we have here at school. And explaining to them what that looks like in different settings at school. So what it looks like in your classroom, what does it mean to be safe in your classroom versus what does that mean to be safe on the playground? Displaying and following classroom rules and having something like a cultural fair where students research different cultures and present various traditions or things like that from those cultures. So those are all things that kind of cross together between SEL and some of the other curriculum and content you're already teaching. Something like a cultural fair would probably hit on several of your different content areas for students as well. Let's see. And then competency D is relationship skills. So when we look at ODE'S, competency for that.
So with relationship skills, you're applying positive verbal and nonverbal communication and social skills to interact effectively with others and in groups. So that's just those positive office referrals. Like you can use those, but just as an example.
Do you want to go through the different areas?
Yeah, let's go through and then develop and maintain positive relationships. So you want to keep those relationships with your students. And then let's see, what's the next one? Demonstrate the ability to prevent, manage, and resolve interpersonal conflicts in constructive ways. So we want to teach them how to, handle those problems and problem solve on their own. Okay.
All right. So if we go back to our crosswalk here.
All right. So with this, again, the Nearpod lessons, the overcoming obstacle lessons, we can't reiterate enough how easy these resources are to use and such user-friendly. And the lessons are, they're really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like we like
and
looking at them. They're very short.
They're not something that's going to take up a lot of your students' time. Easy to incorporate from that stance too. Most of them are 30 minutes or less. I would say most probably fall in that 15 to 20 minute range. On Nearpod, the overcoming obstacles, that one isn't as interactive as far as online use. And so that one's really good for in-person now. You will have to do a little bit of prep, but again, you're looking at maybe 25 minutes tops to prepare for those overcoming obstacles lessons. And again, if you're 3rd through 5th grade, and even some of the lessons we're using for some of our 2nd graders, some of your small groups are getting those too. So just keep that in mind. So they could even be leaders in your class if you decide to do those as a whole class. And then some just easy activities that you can do.
Just like some, I had this one from another lesson I've done that Rachel and I just did was, with just limited supplies saying, give them a task with limited supplies in like a small group. They're going to have to work together. They're going to have to build that relationship to make that work. Playing board games, playing any kind of games, just playing the, structured recess games, anything like that is going to build relationships.
And again, like we talked
just
about
thought
too,
of
those
something,
pen pals or those
Yes.
flip grid pals or things like that. And especially now because kids aren't changing classes and things as much, they're not having as much interaction besides recess time with other classes. You could even do pen pals across your grade level at this point because they're not interacting quite as much. So,
and I've seen, like taking the lessons outside or even just having lunch with your class. I mean, those are building those relationships.
Having things, structured activities during lunchtime to do. So doing Kahoots during lunch, that's something fun that they can engage in. You could do one of these SEL, you could turn an SEL lesson into a Kahoot where they're trying to answer questions about it. And that would help build relationship and belongingness and things like that. And then our last one from ODE as far as competencies is responsible decision making. And so if we take a look down here on that one, so we're looking at develop, implement, and model effective decision and critical thinking skills. I feel like this one just totally flows across all curriculums and all different kinds of standards that you guys already have for academic standards as well. And then identify potential outcomes to help make constructive decisions. Consider the ethical and civical impact of decisions that students make, and then explore and approach new situations with an open mind and curiosity while recognizing that some outcomes are not certain or are not comfortable. So again, if you look at our crosswalk, we've pulled out some of those Nearpod lessons that would meet that competency for you. And also some of those overcoming obstacle lessons, and then just some additional things that you could do to help meet this competency. Having your students participate in a community project. So helping to plant a school garden. I know we've had classes that have done that before. Organizing a food drive, and we would love you guys for that.
Yes.
If your class wants to do that.
Yes.
Doing something like a sock drive or a glove drive. Doing anything like that gets them involved in something bigger than themselves. Doing a career exploration project with students where they can hold their own career fair. This would be great for the upper grade levels. I know, is it fourth grade does the wax museum?
The wax museum, yeah.
So I think what a really neat idea is one of the upper grade levels, like third, fourth, or fifth, to do a career fair for the younger kids. And so where they dress up, they research a career and they dress up and they present what that would look like. If I were a doctor, these are all the duties I would have, and here's the places I could work and things like that. So that's helping them to be forward thinking and responsible decision makers with their future. And then having students participate in a week of kindness, so where they learn about and deliver random acts of kindness around the school to either other students, staff, anything like that. So
there's quite a few resources that we've given you. Like we said, we've tried to answer, the questions and also give you plenty of resources for you to use. As Rachel said before, we are going to have some office hours. So after you've kind of dove into this, you've, watched the video, and if you still have some questions, we are definitely here to answer those.
We are here to help, and you can just click our office hours link that will be in the PD schedule, and we will be here virtually to connect with you guys. All right.
All right.
Have fun with the rest of your PDs. See you guys.